The Warlord descends. The sky above New York City split open like torn fabric. A jagged seam of violet light expanded across the heavens, widening until it stretched from horizon to horizon. People on the streets stopped, craning their necks, their voices falling into uneasy silence. What emerged through the tear was no meteor, no satellite, but a vessel so vast it eclipsed the sun. Its hull shimmered with living metal, crawling like scales that pulsed with alien energy. A voice, amplified through frequencies not made for human ears, rumbled across the city. It was deep, guttural, and carried a weight that seemed to press against every heart. People of Earth, your champion has made you soft. Your defiance will be broken. Kneel before Zerathos, warlord of the HFY Dominion. The words rattled skyscraper windows. The air itself trembled. Then the invasion began. From the underbelly of the dreadnought, swarms of bioforged soldiers descended in streaks of violet flame. They were tall, armored in obsidian carapaces, their limbs shaped into blades and cannons. They landed on avenues, cracking pavement underfoot, and immediately began hurting civilians with ruthless precision. Some unleashed shockwaves that shattered cars, others sprayed webs of magnetic energy to ensnare fleeing crowds. But humans did not run quietly. A police officer shouted for people to move into cover, firing his sidearm at a soldier even as the rounds ricocheted harmlessly off its hide. Firefighters rushed into collapsing buildings to drag survivors out. And still, New Yorkers, unarmed, terrified, shouted, resisted, and pulled one another from danger. Above them, the sky thundered. A red and blue streak cut across the clouds, breaking the sound barrier with a crack like divine judgment. Superman arrived. His cape flared behind him as he hovered over Times Square, eyes blazing with heat vision ready to ignite. His gaze swept across the chaos, then rose to the colossal figure stepping down from the hovering dreadnought. Zerathos. The warlord stood over 9 feet tall, his form encased in armor that bent the light around it. In his gauntlet hands, gravity itself seemed to ripple, distorting the air as if the world were a fragile sheet of glass. Each step he took cratered the street, cars lifting slightly into the air before slamming down again. Superman's jaw tightened. "You don't belong here." Zerathos's voice carried like thunder, though his mouth barely moved. "Neither do you, Kryptonian. This planet clings to you like a child clutching a broken toy. Without you, they are nothing. And today, I will prove it." Before Superman could respond, Zerathos moved. Faster than any Earth soldier could track, the alien warlord slammed his fist into the ground. The street buckled and heaved upward, a ripple of collapsing gravity throwing cars, debris, and people into the air. Superman shot forward, catching a bus before it could crash down on the crowd, gently lowering it to the street. That second of distraction was all Zerathos needed. He appeared before Superman in a blur and drove a gauntlet fist into his chest. The blow wasn't just physical. It carried the crushing weight of a mountain. Superman was hurled backward through 2 skyscrapers, glass and steel raining down as he fought to steady himself in midair. The crowd gasped, horror turning to dread. For the first time in years, they had seen Superman stagger. Superman clenched his fists, his breath shallow but steady. He could feel it. The gauntlets weren't ordinary weapons. They bent space-time itself, turning every strike into a miniature singularity. His Kryptonian cells strained, his body aching as though the planet's gravity had tripled around him. But when he looked down, he didn't see fear alone. He saw people still fighting. A construction worker swinging a steel beam at an alien soldier. A woman pulling a child free from a collapsed taxi. Strangers shielding one another, refusing to surrender. Superman's eyes hardened. "They're stronger than you think, Zerathos." He streaked upward, colliding with the warlord in a clash that sent shockwaves down the avenues. The 2 titans exchanged blows at speeds invisible to human eyes, Superman's fists glowing with heat, Zerathos's gauntlets bending the world with each strike. The ground cracked open, buildings trembled, and the sky boiled with storm clouds from the sheer energy unleashed. Pinned beneath a crushing field of gravity, Superman forced himself to rise, veins burning with solar fire. He glared into the alien's pitiless eyes. "You'll find out soon enough. Humanity doesn't kneel." Zerathos smirked, his armor glowing brighter as he pressed harder, skyscrapers groaning under the strain. "Then they will be buried standing." The battle had only begun. The weight of worlds. The warship blotted out the sky above New York, casting the city in unnatural twilight. The streets were torn and smoking from the first clash. Superman hovered amid the haze, chest heaving, while below him the warlord Zerathos stood untouched, gravity swirling around his gauntlets like invisible storms. "Do you feel it, Kryptonian?" Zerathos's voice vibrated through the broken city. "The pull of 1,000 collapsing suns. Even your bones will shatter beneath my dominion." Superman steadied himself. His ribs ached, his muscles felt heavier, as though the earth itself pressed down upon him. Every breath was a battle. Still, he hovered defiantly above the enemy. "I've carried the weight of the world before. I'll carry it again, if that's what it takes to stop you." Zerathos smiled, the cracks in his obsidian armor glowing brighter violet. With a flick of his wrist, an entire block of cars rose from the ground, suspended like toys, then flung toward Superman with meteoric speed. Superman blurred forward, shattering them midair before they struck nearby buildings. Each collision felt heavier than steel. Each punch carried the crushing force of a collapsed star. The warlord did not relent. He struck the pavement again, and a wave of gravitational force rippled outward. Buildings bowed, windows imploded, and the ground itself folded upward like fabric. Civilians stumbled, dragged by the pull of invisible tides. But humanity resisted. In the chaos, firefighters formed human chains to pull people from rubble. Police coordinated barricades, ushering survivors into underground stations. News drones still circled overhead, broadcasting the defiance of a city under siege. Ordinary people, bruised and terrified, refused to scatter. They resisted the alien foot soldiers with makeshift weapons, metal pipes, debris, anything to fight back. Zerathos noticed. His smirk faltered. "These creatures should be broken," he snarled. "Why do they stand when they should crawl?" Superman's eyes glowed red, his voice steel. "Because they're human. And humanity doesn't yield." The warlord lunged again, faster this time. His gauntlets rippled with so much force that the asphalt beneath his feet liquefied. Superman met him halfway, their collision erupting like a bomb. Both figures vanished in a blur of speed and violence, leaving shockwaves that rattled the skyline. The fight carried them skyward. Superman was driven back through layers of clouds, his body dragged by the crushing pull of gravity fields. Zerathos's strikes grew heavier, each one bending air into concussive bursts. Superman felt his bones strain. For the first time, his vision swam, his body screaming under forces no Kryptonian was built to withstand. "Without me," Zerathos roared, "your species is defenseless. They hide behind your cape, clinging to your shadow. When I tear you from them, they will collapse." Superman spat blood, wiped it from his lip, and surged forward, teeth clenched. His fists burned with heat vision leaking at the seams. He struck Zerathos across the jaw, then another into his chest. The warlord staggered but steadied, his gauntlets pulling the very clouds into spirals around them. "You don't understand," Superman said, breath ragged. "I don't make them strong. They make me strong." The battle soared higher, until Earth curved below them. In orbit, the alien dreadnought loomed, a fortress bristling with cannons. From its flanks, more swarms of bioforged drones erupted, diving toward cities across the globe. In Cairo, in London, in Wakanda, the skies darkened as alien soldiers fell like locusts. Yet humanity did not cower. In Cairo, resistance fighters drove alien troops back into alleys with nothing but Molotovs and stolen rifles. In London, scientists hacked into alien transmissions, broadcasting interference that scrambled their formations. In Wakanda, the Royal Guard engaged with advanced vibranium weapons, holding the line with precision and fire. Across the world, humanity refused to kneel. Superman saw it all through comlink flashes and the distant cries echoing in his super-hearing. His chest swelled with pride. They're fighting. They're holding. They're proving you wrong, Zerathos. The warlord sensed the shift. His blows grew desperate, heavier, his arrogance cracking. They are nothing, he bellowed, striking Superman down into the upper hull of the dreadnought. The impact cratered the alien metal. Superman groaned, dragging himself from the twisted steel, his cape torn to ribbons. Inside the ship, soldiers rushed toward him. He blasted them with twin beams of heat vision, scattering them like ash. Then he rose again, facing Zerathos in the hollow of the warlord's own fortress. "You call yourself a warlord," Superman growled. "But what you really fear is that they don't need you, or me, to survive. Humanity fights for itself." Zerathos unleashed everything. His gauntlets pulsed like collapsing stars, gravity waves tearing through the dreadnought. Panels buckled, machinery ripped free, drones spun out of control. Superman charged into the storm, each step like lifting mountains, each punch like dragging planets. Their fists collided, and for an instant the dreadnought quaked as if struck by a meteor. The world held its breath. Superman's voice broke through the maelstrom. "This ends here. Humanity is not yours to conquer." And with a final surge of solar-charged fury, he drove Zerathos back, deeper into the ship, setting the stage for their ultimate clash. Battle for humanity. The alien dreadnought cracked like a wounded beast, violet fire leaking from its ruptured hull. Gravity storms raged inside the ship as Zerathos, warlord of the HFY Dominion, towered over Superman, his gauntlets glowing with collapsing light. "You cannot win, Kryptonian," he roared, voice shaking the metal walls. "For every strike you throw, my dominion endures. Humanity is dust without you." Superman stood battered, cape in tatters, body bruised and aching from the endless strain of gravity fields. His chest rose and fell, but his eyes still burned with determination. "You keep saying that," he answered, fists clenching. "But you don't understand. I'm not fighting alone. They're fighting with me. Humanity doesn't need to kneel, and I don't need to stand for them. I stand with them." The warlord snarled, raising both gauntlets high. The air collapsed into a crushing sphere, a miniature singularity forming between his palms. Lights flickered, metal screamed as the dreadnought's inner walls warped toward the gravity well. Superman's ears filled with the sound of human voices, people across Earth calling out, fighting back, refusing to surrender. That sound filled him with fire. He charged. The two collided in a burst of light that shattered the ship's interior. Superman drove his fists into Zerathos's chest, each strike charged with solar fury, each blow echoing the strength of billions of people who refused to yield. Zerathos countered with gravity-laden strikes, each one capable of crushing a mountain. Sparks, fire, and twisted steel filled the air as the Titans clashed in the belly of the warship. The battle spilled upward, crashing through decks and tearing into the outer hull. Suddenly, they were in open space above Earth. The curve of the planet glowed below, clouds drifting peacefully even as alien drones streaked through the atmosphere like falling stars. Zerathos hurled Superman downward with a gravitational wave, slamming him into the warship's surface hard enough to dent the alien steel. Superman gritted his teeth, forcing himself upright. He could feel every bruise, every crack in his bones, but he would not fall. "Not here. Not now. Why do you resist?" Zerathos demanded, descending with a storm of violet energy swirling around him. "You are Kryptonian. You are not of them. Why die for them? Superman lifted his head, his eyes glowing like burning coals. "Because I choose them. Because they choose me. Because humanity isn't weak, they're strong in ways you'll never understand." He launched himself upward, colliding with Zerathos in midair. The two spun into the void, blows shaking the dreadnought as though it were paper. Zerathos's gauntlets tore at Superman's flesh, crushing ribs, bruising muscle, but Superman's punches drove the alien warlord back step by step. Then the moment came. Superman saw it, the faint flicker in the gauntlets, the overcharge of violet light. They weren't invincible. They were drawing from a core hidden within the dreadnought, a heart of anti-energy that powered the entire fleet. He realized what he had to do. Superman grappled Zerathos, their fists locking. "You've made a mistake, Warlord," he said through gritted teeth. "You put all your power in one place." Zerathos snarled, straining against him. "And you are too broken to stop me." Superman pushed forward, muscles screaming, forcing the alien down through the hull. Metal tore apart as they crashed into the ship's reactor chamber. At its center pulsed a colossal sphere of violet energy, the anti-energy core, beating like a malevolent heart. It was unstable, volatile, and deadly. Zerathos roared in fury, trying to throw Superman off, but Superman held on. "This ends now," he shouted, and with one last surge of solar might, he ripped the gauntlets from Zerathos's arms. The warlord howled as the stolen gravity powers faltered, his body suddenly vulnerable. Superman's eyes blazed with heat vision. For Earth. For humanity. He blasted the gauntlets directly into the core. The explosion was cataclysmic. A storm of violet fire erupted, tearing through the dreadnought. The ship split apart as energy consumed it from within. Zerathos was hurled into the void, screaming as the core imploded, dragging him and the remnants of his Dominion fleet into nothingness. Superman barely escaped, his body scorched, his lungs burning as he propelled himself away from the collapsing wreck. The last fragments of the warship disintegrated in a flash of light that lit the upper atmosphere like a second sun. For a moment, there was silence. Then Superman fell, tumbling back toward Earth. He landed in the ruins of Metropolis, cratering the street. Civilians rushed toward him, people who had fought, resisted, survived. Bloodied and exhausted, Superman forced himself to his feet. Around him, people cheered, cried, embraced one another. Soldiers hugged civilians, firefighters raised their fists, children clung to their parents. They had survived. Superman looked around at them all. "You didn't need me to fight for you," he said softly, though his voice carried. "You were already fighting. I just gave you time." An old man stepped forward from the crowd, dirt streaking his face. "No," he said firmly. "You gave us hope. And with hope, we fight for ourselves." Superman's tired smile returned. He lifted his gaze to the sky, where the wreckage of the warlord's fleet burned out like dying stars. Humanity had won. Not because of Kryptonian strength, but because of human resilience. The final war for humanity was over, and humanity had endured.